entire Video Tours library is available for purchase by corporations, educators, and individuals.
It doesn't seem so very long ago, that fall of 1835, though so many years have passed. The world has changed a great deal since, yet we saw and felt great changes, even then. In our village, folks seemed to work contentedly at the trades their parents and grandparents had followed. Still, nothing was quite the same as it had been. Events in the world far beyond our village touched us at home, in the shops and on the farms. Even the pace of our days had quickened somehow. My brother and I were too young, however, to comprehend all this. I felt mainly discontent. I was still a girl, though I stood on the brink of womanhood.
We'd best make haste, Sarah. It's a baking day. We have a great deal to do.
I was 15 when Aunt Eliza came to live with us. Mother was going to have a baby. She had brought 8 children into the world, but 2 did not live. This time, she was feeling poorly.
Where is that child? Daydreaming, most likely. She's been forever at the milking.
What with Mother unwell and 2 little ones to mind, there was more work than ever for me, for I was the only girl old enough. You can be sure I was as thankful for Aunt Eliza's help as Mother was.
There now, Prudence. Don't fret yourself. Sarah and I will see to it.
Aunt Eliza was nearly the same age as my eldest brother, Ephraim, so she seemed much like an elder sister to me. As we worked together, the time passed more pleasantly, for talking to her was so agreeable.
It will grow easier in time, Sarah. Recollect, your mother and I have had many years of practice.
I regret to say I was not as patient a girl as I wished to be. There were many tasks that made me fret, and I fear I did them not so well as I ought. I expect most girls are trained the same way. On the farm, by the time a girl is 6 years old, she begins learning to keep house. Milking, sewing, mending, making butter and cheese. There's every kind of baking and cookery. There's the laundry to wash and the garden to tend. I had learned early enough, but Aunt Eliza had a way about her that made me wish to do better.
You see, Sarah, fine needles make fine stitches, and your gown will be as good as new. But I hope you'll be more careful next time.
Oh, I try to be careful, Aunt Eliza, but Levi nearly fell in the fire. And when I ran to fetch him back, I hit my knee, and then I scorched my hem. He's always in some kind of mischief, yet I always get the worst of it.
My knee mends quick enough, and a needle and thread can mend your gown. Better that than let the naughty boy roast himself, don't you think?
To me, it seemed the little ones made every task twice the work. School would be starting soon, but I was not looking forward to it as happily as before. Persis was 4, old enough to go with me, so I must mind her there as well.
Stop it, you little thief!
Now, Persis, you're a big girl. Go play nicely with your brother. Someday you'll have babes of your own, and you'll be thankful you've had this practice.
All the same, I thought it hard that I must spend my youth minding little brother and sister. and then go on to mind my own as well. And never an end to it. For well before you have a home of your own, while you're still but a child yourself, why, you must be mother and housekeeper. I knew it must be so to train me to be a good housewife. Still, there were troubling times, as when we had our hands full with baking, and the little ones would get into the worst mischief. Then it seemed a hard thing for a girl.
Good day, Lucinda.
Good day, Sarah.
Morning, and she has leisure to ride about.
I knew girls in prosperous farming families who had no more to do than a bit of fine needlework and visit neighbors. Or so it seemed to me. I regret to say I envied their idleness and the tidy gowns they never scorched.
Scrape your shoes, Jonathan. It's hard enough keeping the floor clean without you bringing in half the field with you. I'm sure Lucinda Corey's brothers don't need to be told to scrape their feet every single time.
I own I was much tempted to make a mud heap of the floor, just to vex her. But that would have vexed Mother as well, and Father was not far behind me. I did wonder why the sight or mention of Lucinda Corey always seemed to make my sister so cross. But she and Aunt Eliza had made a fine meal, and I soon forgave her sharp tongue.
Your bread is so light today, Sarah.
Indeed it is, Sarah.
There's no need to fuss about doctors. I'll do well enough.
I do wish the harvest had been better, Prudence.
We'll get by.
I knew the heavy rains had spoiled much of our harvest. We'd survived hard times before, but this time Mother was ill, and it seemed we could not afford a doctor. I was old enough and strong enough to help my father with most tasks, yet now I wished I were of more use to him.
Good. Very good.
It wanted a great deal of wood to keep the fires going through the winter. There was fence stock to cut as well. Important tasks all, but they would not get a doctor or medicine for my mother.
Buck, come up.
So it seemed with my other labors as well. I had begun training the young oxen when I was 6, a task I much liked.
You do have a way with the creatures, Jonathan. I think you were born to be a farmer.
So I had always thought. But now I found myself wondering whether farming was a reliable way to get a living. A cow might sicken and die. Then we'd lose her butter and cheese for a whole year. A drought or heavy rains, a late frost in spring or an early one in fall, and a year's hard work was all for naught.
We'd best go into the village tomorrow. The oxen must be shod, and your mother wants her kettle mended. We'll be needing to trade at night store as well.
As I thought of all we needed, and the little we had to offer in trade, my mind filled with worry.
Oh, good day, ladies. And what can I get for you today? I've gotten in some new silk ribbon from Italy.
Well, those are some fine ribbons indeed, Mr. Knight. No time for ribbons today, Sarah. What we need is some thread, Mr. Knight, and a length of shirting. About 3 yards will do.
Oh, please, Aunt Eliza. How pretty it is. Just this ribbon, please.
They're very pretty, Sarah, but we're more in need of shirting for your brothers.
Mary Barnes had left 2 years ago to work in the factory at Globe Village.
Oh, yes. I'll take the comb, Mr. Knight.
Now I hardly knew her. She looked so neat and elegant.
And this ribbon.
And to see her pay in hard money, I couldn't believe my eyes.
Thank you, Miss Barnes.
Clearly, she'd prospered, and I tried to be glad for her because her family was so poor. Yet it did try my patience to see her buy the ribbon I so wanted.
Thank you.
I'd heard she lived in a boarding house with other girls, and I could see now she had enough money to spend on herself as she pleased.
Hooray!
I found myself thinking of all I lacked and all I wished for. Not merely pretty clothes, but books and schooling at the academy.
Better watch out, Sarah, before your face freezes that way. Then we'll have to plant you out in the fields to scare off crows.
Oh, why don't you just do that? Might as well, when I have to go about in rags all of the time. Meanwhile, there's one of the poor Barnes girls, dressed like a lady, buying ribbons in every color when I can't even buy one.
You're all in a fit about a ribbon?
Yes, I am. And about a lot of things. It's just not fair. We worked so hard, morning till night, day after day, year after year, and what have we got to show for it? Here, you take Salem's shirt, as you've nothing better to do.
My sister looked like she was about to weep, right there in the middle of the village. I thought it best to hold my tongue and let her calm down in her own way. Besides, I had no comfort to offer her. For all the ill temper in her words, there was truth as well. It was not so different from what I'd been thinking. I had already made up my mind to speak with my eldest brother, Ephraim. He worked in a shoe shop, and I hoped he might advise me regarding my trade.
Day, Jonathan. I'm afraid you've missed Ephraim. Stayed late last night to finish his shoe order so he could go to the circus today with the others. Not so quick as they are to be with him.
Still, I knew he'd be quicker in time, with practice. The work wants mainly speed, but not too much skill, and it does not take years to learn. This was good for Ephraim. A long apprenticeship would have suited him no better than farming.
Shoemaking seems a good trade, Zenas.
Well, there are harder and slower ways to earn wages, I suppose. Ephraim tells me you're to inherit your father's farm.
Well, maybe.
I mean to have a farm myself one day. About 5 years, if all goes well, I expect to save enough to buy some land to start with.
Farmers rarely have time for circuses.
Still, the land's your own. It's the best security a man can have. Something to hold on to and give to your children.
That I could not deny, though at the moment I could not say what the good was of owning it. It seemed of little use to my mother or sister, certainly. One might own a shop instead, I thought. The printing office was a busy place, where Mr. Merriam had 8 others working for him, and no heavy labor for them either. Even my bookish brother Salem easily performed his tasks. He needed only speed and skill, not muscle power.
They need the mountain shooting stick in the other room.
Over there.
Good morning, Mr. Merriam.
Well, what is it, Jonathan White? I don't need a lot of island boys underfoot.
I just came to bring Salem the shirt my aunt made him.
Well, put it down over there and be off.
Thank Aunt Eliza for me, Jonathan.
Well, at first, right.
I think that's right.
There's your namesake, Jonathan, back already. And me just starting on Mrs. White's kettle.
My boy's not one to waste time.
Indeed, that's a likely lad you've got. Do you care to help me with this, young man?
May I, Father?
Blacksmithing was not like the trades my brothers chose. It wanted considerable strength as well as skill. But how marvelous it must be to reign over that great fire and forge, to shape a bar of metal into a strong, useful object. Hour after hour, a shoemaker finishes one shoe after another. Even for the printer, it's always a sheet or a pamphlet or book. But with iron, a man could do so many things. Shoe oxen and horses, make door latches or pitchforks, and repair almost anything. Mr. Plimpton's apprentice had up and left some weeks before, said the work didn't suit him. I could not hear what Mr. Plimpton said to my father, or what he answered, but I was sure they spoke of me. My father's expression, however, told me nothing more.
Oh, you dreadful child! It's ruined! Look what she's done. She's gotten to the molasses and the ashes.
Wouldn't have happened, Sarah, if you had been watching her and if you had put your belongings away properly instead of sulking the afternoon away.
It's the only good one I've got. What will I wear to meeting tomorrow?
Your other cap will do well enough.
It's old and it's plain, and I've had it forever, like everything else. Mother, I want to get work in the mills. Mary Barnes.
In a factory?
Yes. I want to earn money to buy things like fine cloth from England to make you an elegant gown, and things for the babies, and books, and...
Sarah Elizabeth White, I cannot believe my ears. How can you think for one moment your father and I would let any daughter of ours work in a factory? To live among strangers with no one to look after you like a pauper's child. Have your wits gone wandering?
But Mary Barnes been by.
Oh, hold your tongue, Sarah, and set the table.
It's not that I expect Mother and Father to just give me whatever I want, Aunt Eliza. I'm willing to work.
Of course. You're a very hard-working girl.
And why can't I work for wages?
Well, factory work is hard, Sarah. It's not all freedom and wages. Well, many girls sicken there. And even if they are strong, think how lonely it must be for them, away from family and friends. Mary Barnes now has a few days to rest and enjoy herself. But soon she must go back and work long and tedious hours. Don't begrudge her her ribbons and other trinkets, dear. They may be the only comfort she has. I wish you had gotten your ribbons today. And I know you wish Persis would behave herself. But you've many things that Mary Barnes hasn't. Your parents have set enough aside for you to set up your own household. Mary Barnes must work, or else she'll bring nothing to her marriage.
A girl must marry to be happy, I knew. And I had no wish to be a spinster. All the same, my wedding day seemed so far away. And I did wish I might find a respite from the endless round of household work and tending children.
I know you'll make a fine mother, Aunt Eliza. I suppose you'll be marrying soon, won't you?
Oh, indeed. Just as soon as I can. Maybe tomorrow. Oh, this will make a fine bridal bonnet, don't you think? Or maybe I'll ask Persis to dab a little goose feathers on with molasses.
Oh, I think Mr. Weld would like you well enough, even if Persis decorated it with potato peelings. Say, what did you say to him today that made him turn so red?
You and Mr. Plimpton were talking about me today. Weren't you, Father? Did he offer to take me on?
Hardly makes a difference what he offered. Blacksmithing's not your trade.
It seems good work to me, to put my strength into making useful objects. And it is a good trade, Father. Mr. Plimpton is one of the most prosperous men hereabouts.
I won't deny that. I thought you meant to farm this land, Jonathan. After you, there's only Levi, and it'll be a long time before he's ready. But I never thought to leave the land to Levi. I thought this was what you wished.
He spoke without anger, but the sorrow I heard in his voice was a greater reproach. All the same, I did not see how I could continue at this work. where nature's whim could curse with failure even a wise and able man like him.
Maybe it's not as reliable a trade as I want. We worked hard and steady all year, Father, but still the land gave us little back in return.
You'd rather be like your brothers, relying on another man or many others for your wages? You've had a long training with me, Jonathan, and now you want to begin another apprenticeship? Can't you see what you've got? With land of your own, you can always begin again. You've always the means to feed your family, if nothing else. And recall, there's not a tradesman of any kind doesn't need to put food on his table. Food the farmer grows.
But still, we can't make everything we need. We can't doctor Mother, and we can't make her medicine either. I heard you speak to her, Father, about the doctor.
Well, she thinks it's a waste to send for a doctor when she's getting better all on her own. And you know it's not easy to change your mother's mind. That's all it is, Jonathan. We're not so poor we can't have a doctor when we need one.
I was dumbfounded to discover how much I'd mistaken matters. Only with great difficulty could I turn my mind back to attend my father's words.
I do believe the whole family is fretting about one thing or another, and the moon not even full. Blacksmithing. Well, the prospect has something better than shoemaking, I suppose. Though it's far harder these days to rise in those trades. You've no assurance you'll ever be your own master. Salem will have to move to a good-sized town to start his business. I much doubt Ephraim will set up his own. Blacksmithing. You might at least farm as well. Jonathan, I'd always thought you the settled one.
I felt most unsettled now. For as long as I could remember, I never questioned but I'd be a farmer. Then came the worries of the past 2 days and wondering what to do. From the only possible choice, farming had become one of many. Even now, when I understood matters were not so bad as I believed, the question of my trade still vexed my mind.
And a dispute afterwards arises. Hear both sides with perfect impartiality, and allow no departure from what has been promised in the bargain. From such little things as these, children deserve their first ideas of honesty and justice. Yet when children say anything about beauty, we tell them it is of no value at all. That they must not think anything about beauty. Handsome is that handsome does. Mother tells me...
As I worked that quiet evening, I had much to reflect upon. Even as I turned my thoughts away from the factory, I looked for other ways out of the tedious round of housework. I might learn dressmaking, and one day open my own shop. I might overcome my annoyance with children and become a school teacher. Surely there must be an occupation my mother would permit. And for a while at least, my life would be fresh and different. So I sat, outwardly patient and dutiful, while my mind danced with hopes of change.
In the management of children, are we as sincere on the subject of beauty? We see...
As usual, Sarah had recovered her temper as suddenly as she'd lost it. I dare say all in her mind that evening was the path of her needle.
It is certainly natural to admire beauty, whether it be in the being or flowers. It is a principle implanted in the human mind, and we cannot...
My own thoughts were in a turmoil. If I wished one thing, it seemed I must give up another I wanted just as badly. In my mind, I saw the roaring fire of the forge and the red-hot metal, slowly transformed under my hand as if by magic. Yet I saw the farm as well, the animals who knew my voice and obeyed it, the seeds sown and the green shoots, the sun and wind and rain and the fresh smell of the earth. That night, I envied the little ones, for they did not face such hard choices.
entire Video Tours library is available for purchase by corporations, educators, and individuals.